Our next speaker, and hold on Frits while we clean the stage here, is Frits Huffnagel. Frits is chairman of Kansspelen, the trade association that represents the Netherlands land-based gaming machine operators. And please make it to the stage, gentlemen. Frits is here to share the perspective of land-based incumbents on the implementation of the Remote Gaming Act. With him here is Björn Fuchs, newly appointed Chief Digital Officer at Janshen-Hahnraths Group. Congratulations, Björn.
Thank you, Willem.
Björn represents the perspective of a land-based incumbent which is more than eager to offer its services online. Frits, Björn, the stage is yours. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Willem, and good morning to you all here and attending in a remote location. I'm Björn. I've been active in the media industry for over 18 years, focusing on business development, and that's why I also specialized in the topic of remote games of chance. Mr. Huffnagel, of course, needs no introduction, but I found out this really specific fact, being in this almost royal setting, expecting to have a State of the Union. I found out that he has a quite royal name, Gottfried Philipp. But besides those specific facts, Frits, could you briefly explain to those who don't know the fun, what the fun is?
The fun, yes, I love to. Good morning to you all. The fun is representing the land-based sector when it comes to gambling, and almost the complete market. I started as a chairman now for over 7 years ago. To be honest, I didn't know anything about the gambling sector by that time. I was coming out of politics, and so that was quite a funny talk we had, because I told them that I didn't know anything about gambling and the gambling sector, and then they said, well, that's not our problem. We know enough about that ourselves, but we have a problem with how do politicians think. And the gambling sector is not exactly the most popular sector in politics. No. Of course, has a lot to do with problems that can come up. But then again, in the last 7 years, we've had a far much better position, especially in Parliament and with the government. And so the VAN, of course, supports its members when it comes to discussions about regulation or problems that politics can see. And well, by now, I think we are in a very good position. People listen. Of course, they don't always do what we want, but at least they listen. And as a friend of mine always said, or still says, if you're not at a table, they won't put a plate for you.
No, that sounds like a challenging past and also a challenging future. I've also seen that the fund has a wide variety of members, differing in range and strategies. But what is the common ground that binds them, that drives them?
The common ground, well, most of all, I think, hospitality. Whether it's a big company or a small company, what we do is that we give people a chance to have a nice stay by gambling. Yeah. And I think that, well, there are quite big companies, of course, and there are also companies which we call the mom and dad companies. Yeah. But in the end, it's all about the player, and you want the player to have a good time. So I would say hospitality, that's what binds us most.
Clear. At Janshen-Hahnraths, of course, I also saw that a lot of these, the company and a lot of its peers have a rich history in the Dutch ecosystem, are also very entrepreneurial. And of course, all these entrepreneurs, like the rest of the country and the rest of the world, was affected by COVID. How severe was the impact for the land-based industry?
Well, terrible, of course. We all of us had to shut down on the 15th of March. Well, really closed, so there was no position. I thought it funny that the other guys said that nothing had changed during COVID when it came to online gambling. Come on, whom are we going to fool here? Everybody knows that more people have been gambling online. And of course they did, because they couldn't come to the land-based gambling. And that was a good question about when the sports betting is no longer there because there are no sports, and still the figures are the same, then it can only mean one thing, that more people have been gambling online during COVID. And the same goes with the illegal gambling. We know. So it was terrible for us, and well, thank God, originally we were allowed to open on the 1st of September. Because the restaurants and the cafes, the hotels, they opened on the 1st of June. And then we were set to open on the 1st of September, together with the sports
venues.
Places, the venues where you can sport, and the venues where you can do another sport.
Yeah,
finally we reopened on the 1st of July, which of course, that's something that we are very proud of at the fund, that we managed to convince politics to open earlier. And we did it together with Holland Casino. We've really been very working together in a very good way, and even the KSA supported us.
As an industry, of course, you also have to be proud of the entrepreneurial spirit that has been there, despite all the regulations while opening. But let's focus on the future and the market that's going to open, because it's a positive thing after all these years. With that impact in mind, what do the members of the fund need from the government, the gaming authority, when it comes to the next couple of months?
Well, I think what we always need from government, that is first make clear what you want and what you expect from us, and especially when it comes to crux, it's not that clear yet. So we expect that now that the COVID is in a more in a way something we can work with, that the workshops about the crux, I think that they will start now. And of course, my members, they want to know what is expected from them. So that's the first one. And of course, the other one we expect from government is that they are fair.
Fair. In what way?
Yeah, I've been in politics, so I know that this might be a bit strange, but we need them to be fair. And when the online market is opened, we expect that the tax raise, the extra tax raise that we had, so now it's 30.1, that it will be cut. Because I've said it before, also during a Gaming in Holland meeting, the situation was that online gambling should have been legal already. And because the Ministry of Finance, they already expected the law to be working, and so they already thought, well, we should the money that they expected was already in their budget. And so you have a street with 10 houses, and then government comes and the government thinks, well, I should have 1,000 euro of taxes in this street. And then you find out that 2 of the houses, they're empty. And so they said, yeah, but we still want to have 1,000 euros from this street. So they gave a tax raise to the other 8. Well, the other 8, that's us.
Yes.
So that's not fair. It's still not fair. And now that the online market will be open, it should be fair if at least they hurry with bringing back the tax.
course, as entrepreneurs, of course, everybody wants to pay a lesser tax, but the promise is
Yeah,
in
but
place.
it's
in place that
it's
it
no
will be,
problem to pay tax as long as it's fair, and this is not fair.
yeah, and that's why, of course, the promise was in the temporary raise that if
Exactly.
the law is in effect, that
They
it will
promised, but we know
be
politics.
turned back. Of course, you want to prevent the kwartje van Krok from the past. That's spoken like a true politician.
like that. Yeah.
But besides focusing on tax and business, of course, Crux is an instrument to prevent gambling addicted people to enter our ecosystems. Even more important, if we want a healthy and structural market, is the way to prevent problem gambling and to prevent gambling addiction. As such, there will be a gambling addiction fund, which will finance an organization that will offer care to the consumer, do research. How does the fund propose that such an organization should be set up?
Well, I think that most important is that players should be protected. And if they play at the legal branch, so at our branch, then they are protected. So what should be done most is make sure that illegal, that playing illegal, that you should make that more harder, because then they're not protected. And so I think that should be number one.
Some industry peers have expressed their concern that this organization would be too much focused on the healthcare industry. What are your thoughts on the balance between setting up such an organization between healthcare and business people?
Well, I think it's both important, and it should be both should be represented in the plans. But I've not seen that kind of plans already. But most important is make sure that people don't play illegal, because then they really can come in troubles that are not there when you play legally.
Absolutely. With regards to the timetable that's in front of us, some of the industry peers have called for postponing Crux, which actually now of course happened for the implementation. But some are calling for an even more postponing with regards to the introduction of the law. What's the general idea within the fund?
Well, we have asked for some more time, but well, we know now that the law will be introduced by the 1st of March, and so half a year later it will be working, or at least that's what we expect. And we are going to do anything that needs to be done. But it's hard, because we would have loved some more time.
Of course, but it's also in the interest of the consumer to have a proper and solid and fairly regulated market in which they have a safe offering. Early on, we talked about the common ground within the fund. In my time within the media industry, I noticed that companies like RTL, SBS were competing fiercely and kind of forgot to find their common grounds towards the future. Big media companies from abroad, online companies coming in. To what extent will we see the fund extending that common grounds outside its own borders towards other organizations like NOGA, the lotteries, etc.?
Well, I think they should become a member of the fund as soon as they're legal.
You're all invited.
That's most simple, and it works best. And if you see the results of the fund, especially this year, I think anyone should be proud to join the fund.
That's a good and positive way. And I truly believe, I think in recent development within the media industry, that common ground has been found, and I do believe that within our industry we should make that move rather sooner than later. A last question with regards to your challenging position your challenges as a chairman. During the COVID lockdown, there was quite a different approach among the members. How is it with regards to how to communicate, which strategy? How, as a chairperson, do you keep all these frogs in one basket and focus on the greater good?
Well, I think that we did not really have the problem with very much different opinions, because of course when we were closed after the 15th of March, there was one goal for everybody, and it was reopening as soon as possible. And so we worked together with all the members of the fund, the big ones, the small ones. We worked together with Holland Casino, and well, we have good contacts with the politicians, so with government and with parliament, and that worked out. And so by now, of course, everyone will be more working for its own, but especially during the month that we were closed, we worked quite close together.
So united in a difficult time. Well, thank you for these insights. I think it's now time to look at some questions that came in. The first one, do you think the delay will benefit the land-based operators more than the benefit of the cooling off period?
Do you think the delay will benefit the land-based operators more than? No.
And why not?
No, I think that the time that we were closed, it was really close. There was nobody coming in, so not a euro, and that benefit, the benefit of the delay won't change that.
No, and I think, of course, the rich history and presence of your fund members, of course, is a great benefit that they can use already towards the upcoming market. The other question, how does the fund feel about the current timetable for implementing KOA?
Well, we talked about it. We have asked for more time, but it's not given to us.
No, a bit more breathing room with regards to the implementing of Crux, but the other timetable remains challenging for your members.
Great, these were the two of the questions that were asked. I think we have a question from the room as well. Frits, Björn, please stay here. 1 second. Maybe can you stand up and please state your name?
Justin Franse, Golfkast in France. Frits, I have a question for you. You obviously very successfully lobbied together with Holland Casino, as you explained, to get a faster market opening, or reopening, I should say, for land-based, and rightfully so, I think, because you were pointing to the black market. That was one of the arguments you used, and for that reason you said, well, let's reopen as soon as we can. I'm just wondering, and I'm puzzled by the fact that on one hand you're saying, well, we don't have any income generated, but then you're pushing for a delay for remote gaming, whereas at the same time, the same argument, consumer protection and so forth, flies for remote. So why on the one hand do you want to have the land-based reopened as soon as you can for the benefit of the consumer, and at the same time for remote you're basically saying, well, let's wait for half a year or so. Bearing also in mind that during the delay, in principle, the tax, which is unfair, as you say, which I agree with, by the way, continues to be at the same level. So could you elaborate a little bit on that, please?
Well, it's a good point, because those are the arguments for not delaying, or for speeding up even. But because of the COVID, we have been in quite a different position, and like for the Crux, we don't really know what is expected from us. So that's when we look at the KSA, of course, and I know that they are going to organize the workshops now. And on the other hand, of course, the sooner online gambling will be legal, the better. But so fair point, but we asked for a half a year delay. We thought that would be responsible. But well, we didn't get it.
No, I take your point, Frits, but again, it still puzzles me that you're basically saying leave the player in the cold for remote for half a year extra, Whereas you use that exact same argument for a quick reopening of the land-based, the land-based facilities.
Yeah,
I simply
that's
don't
true.
get that.
And now we are in the cold.
Sorry?
And now we are in the cold.
You're in the cold.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. Any more questions from the room? Quick last question. Yes, behind. Can you please state your name?
Yes, good morning, everybody. My name is Mauro De Fabritis, MDF Partners. A question for the future. Do you think that the online regulation in Holland could have a positive impact on the land-based sector? I mean, which kind of synergies you can figure out from the online regulation, and if you can find example of synergies, which is the way the land-based sector should adapt the strategy in order to compete or be aligned with the expected evolution of the online. Thank you.
I can elaborate on that from a Janshen-Hahnraths perspective, because we kind of extensively discussed it yesterday. There are 4 possible synergy scenarios. First of all, somebody that's been playing in the physical domains sees the mobile offering and says, "I'm never going to go to a physical casino." That's not very likely. Scenario 2, of course, will be the fact that a physical experience will be extended to the online domain. This will be not a bigger part of the business, but there will be a certain part of the audience in our physical casinos that will transfer or extend their experience. The third, of course, is the other way around, the online player that goes to our physical casinos. This will directly mean that we have to adapt our casinos, we will have to adapt the experience there, because there is a very focused target group in the fair play casinos at this point in time. And also a very focused crew and hospitality. The 4th scenario is the most likely, and that's of course the fact that all the members of the fund have experience and marketing vehicles in the streets, giving the Dutch consumer a threshold where they can walk into a real person to which they can talk, and a real environment where they can have an additional experience. So the 4th scenario, having the physical domain supplementing and supporting the online industry, will be the most likely for me.
Great, and I think, thank you, Mauro, for the question. Thank you, Björn, for this last answer. I think that was very insightful. So we had a quite bit of information here to digest. We have a coffee break now for half an hour. We resume here in 30 minutes with the IMGL Masterclass, licensing and lessons. And lessons from abroad. But while we're taking a break, please remember the social distancing rules and other safety precautions. And Frits, Björn, thank you for joining us on stage here today.
You're welcome. Thank you.